initial pull, and then it was on a wire so that each time he got closer, we could pull it and pull it further away. So not only did we throw it off the stand, we dragged it across the floor.
Little bit of the old demon slip out there, won't happen again.
This was one time where the Book of Shadows actually had a life. It had a personality.
Would you?
It was reacting to something another character was doing. It was making a decision to do or not do something, and it went all the way from "you're not going to touch me" to he literally gets down on his hands and knees and slowly coaxes himself towards the book just to try and convince the book to let him open it up and take a look. If you watch him, once he picks it up and he sort of takes it in his arms and he's holding it very carefully, because at any point, the Book of Shadows could decide, sorry, that's not going to happen.
Well, maybe it's time we face the fact that, you know, perhaps we're not meant to find love.
That is ridiculous.
Phoebe? If love isn't worth fighting for, then what is?
Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We'll look in the Book of Shadows and see if there's another way to find Leo.
Amen.
Who doesn't want to have a Book of Shadows, you know? That's the magic of charm. It's the wish fulfillment. It's the, oh my God, what if I had a book that I'm having trouble in my love life and I can say a spell and try to solve it. And it always goes awry, but what I love is if I had that book, I would go to that book every single time, and it didn't matter like how many crazy things happen and how many demons I accidentally set free by using that spell. I would still try to use that spell. You know, I would still try to use that book to solve life. It's so tempting to go for a shortcut to solve life.
It was the whole basis of the girls learning about their powers and their spells, and without the Book of Shadows, there wouldn't have been a charm.
Okay. Thanks, Grams. You touched the book.
Oh my God, so I did. I guess that means I'm good.
That's him. This is him.
Guardians of the Hollow?
I found a vanquishing potion for the sorcerer.
Wait, so you're the one that keeps turning the pages in the book? Just my way of looking after you.
I am one of millions. In places you can't even imagine and forms you would never believe. You will never be safe, and you will never be free!
The power of 3.
If the show were just about 3 witches, I don't think the show would have worked at all.
Everything feels the same, so nothing's changed, right?
We landed on a mantra, which is it's a show about 3 sisters who happen to be witches, not 3 witches who happen to be sisters. And once we found that mantra, we stuck with that and realized this is a family show first. This is a show about women who are in their early 20s, who have all the real issues that any other woman has in their early 20s, and sisters who have to deal with each other with this secret.
Me keep a secret?
Hello, wrong Halliwell.
One of the things that was attractive about the show, especially at the very beginning, was the mythology of magic in terms of the love that the sisters had for each other and this amazing gift that they'd been given by the other women in their family.
I think that the timing of the show was perfect. Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, had been absolutely enormous, so the whole sort of girl power element, Charm definitely had that aspect.
We talked a lot in the early days about metaphors for female empowerment and female relationships.
Whoa.
The power that they drew from each other on a more practical, emotional level.
In the beginning, Phoebe was the baby, Piper was the middle sister, and Prue was the eldest. We defined those characters a lot by those sort of the psychological dynamics of what it is to be the eldest, what it is to be the middle, what it is to be the youngest.
Please tell me you didn't use your powers. Don't put me in the middle. I'm not. You were born in the middle.
What Shannon and Alyssa and I had was a very special chemistry that was not manufactured, was not forced. It was very easy. It's lightning in a bottle. And we got very lucky with Rose. We got very lucky with Rose because she didn't try to be part of something. She was so individual that she was just like, this is me, this is who I am. And she was twirling in her own little splendor over here. And it worked for her character because the character had a different dad than we did. And she was, you know, kind of the outsider. So it helped. But thank the Lord for Rose because I don't think anybody else could have pulled it off. It's nice to meet you.
It was a little scary because it's the premise of the show is the power of three and these three sisters, but it was also really exciting because what happened is suddenly Piper is the oldest, Phoebe is in the middle, and Paige is the rebel. It shook everything up, which was really fun as a writer too. You know, it ultimately infused a lot of energy into the story-breaking process.
Strange, isn't it? Now on top of everything else, you have to play the middle sister.
The writers really walk a very fine line of having the show be fun and light and sort of campy and then deal with the real issues.
Thanks, Leo.
I didn't mean you couldn't use the stairs.
The thing I found most fascinating in talking with the fans of the show is that they really liked the deeper issues more than even the demon stuff. It was to them a show about sisters.
You had a really wonderful relationship show wrapped up in this cool mythology that let us talk about anything.
I would always tell the writers, anything goes, as long as it started with the girls. In order to ground this craziness, it had to be a real story about women in their 20s, dealing with love and loss, with jobs, with losing jobs, with friends, with family. It had to be always about that first and foremost, because if we just went for the craziness, then what was grounding it? It became an untethered balloon. People aren't going to come back every week to watch the wackiness. They're coming back to watch the girls, the family, the sisterhood. The wackiness is the icing on the cake.
Isn't tight?
I had the best power on Earth. People always get asked questions just in life. You know, if you were a superhero, what kind of power do you want to be? And everyone says, oh, I'd be invisible or I'd want to fly. No. Orbiting is hands down the coolest power on the planet. One, I could throw something at you if I didn't like you.
Lamp!
Two, I could touch your hand and we could go to Paris for lunch. We would never have to take an airplane.
I'll wear my sunblock. Bye, guys.
And I'll admit, I've been on airplanes many a times and I sit there fantasizing about how I could do things if I were orbiting, which is sad because it's not in fact real, but God, I wish it were.
That's the magic of Charmed. It's the wish fulfillment. But what was always interesting on the show is that even though these girls had magic, there weren't that many shortcuts. They would use these spells and like chaos would happen, and they were always in trouble for using magic for personal gain, but they wouldn't stop doing it, which all feels really true to me. I wouldn't stop using magic for personal gain if I could.
My son does it at home, and it's just perfectly horrifying to me. He's 3 years old, and he'll go, freeze! And I'm just like, oh, God, please don't do that. It actually came pretty organically from the moment in the pilot where I was just reaching for something for him to stop.
Chef Moore?
We were kind of just stumbling through going, you know, what do we do for this power? What do we do for that? And we just kind of come up with it.
And then you just wave your arm at it.
I was very embarrassed the first season, but also nobody primed me. So I get there for the first, episode that I'm shooting, and I'm supposed to call out for a candle. What are you people talking about?
I think the key to it all was to not fight it, because, you know, at first I think I had a tendency to be like, oh my God, what am I doing and what am I wearing?
Nice outfit. Back at you, sis.
The key to it was just to sort of, you know, go with it and allow yourself to find the humor in it as a character and put yourself in these situations that you would clearly never be in life. And how would someone react to that?
The thing that made Charmed fun to do, if you're going to be on a series for many, many years, it can get pretty darn boring if they're doing the same thing every week. Well, that was never the case on Charmed. Every week it was completely different, whether it would be bats or vampires or dragons. It was never the same. So each week you had the arc with the girls' dramatic lives. On top of that, you mix in the demons and the warlocks and the fireballs, and you have a nice stew of fun.
I embraced it all. It was all fun. You know, anytime I got to throw on a wig, I was excited.
And why do I always get stuck with the wig?
Trust me, you don't.
First, I'd look down and be in like this genie outfit with this wig, and that's absurd. And then, you know, the action on top of that, I was losing my balance inside a bottle. You know, the absurdity never ended.
I wish to resurrect the lost city of Zanbar.
The thing about this show was that we had no rules. We could make up any world at any time, and there were no barriers. It's not like we were doing, you know, a cop show or a hospital show.
Leprechaun!
It got to a point where I couldn't even email my friends or tell them what was going on because they would stop believing me.
Ever date a literal person?
So, what'd you do at work today? Oh, I had a leprechaun straddle my neck. What'd you do? But that's part of the charm of Charmed.
There was many moments like that where we're kind of like, we're in a cave in high heels, and you're like, yep, this is what I do. This is my job.
Even if they didn't like it that much, they would sell it. And that's one thing I'm always grateful to them for, because they would sit up and show up and try to sell some of the crazy, wacky stuff that we were asking them to do.
Okay. Yeah. The demon monkey stole my hearing!
For the characters, it was real. So you can never play something with a wink to the audience of, oh, isn't this absurd? Because, you know, the whole premise really worked with the girls. This is their real situation and what they're really dealing with. They're really dealing with these absurd situations, and so it can't really be that absurd to them. And if it is, it was handled in, you know, really funny ways.
Oh, Paige is proposing violence against the monkey.
It turns out, you know, fun and campy and exactly what it's supposed to be.
I will not use my powers for anything but good.
I know you believe that, and I know you want it to be true. But, Cole, it's just a matter of time.
You're wrong.
Even though Charmed was a fantasy, I think the strength and the reason it lasted so long is because it was based in sort of universal truths and the humanity of these people that happen to be witches.
You know, you really ought to get yourself a prince in case this ever happens again.
Who are you?
We'll send you the bill.
We got our best stories from truthful human stories. So it's just like, you know, any woman who finds their match in a guy, it's going to be what they're needing for that time in their life.
Yeah, in case you haven't noticed, which I know you haven't, my body, my thoughts, my dreams have all gone wonky.
Well, I'm sure that it's just normal pregnancy stuff. I mean, we can talk about this later if you want to.
Oh, I think you should talk about it now. We felt like our trailers were bugged because what was going on in the scripts we had been talking about in our real lives, and we were just like, okay, where's the microphone?
You're pregnant?
Well, I was, but now I think Leo is.
Huh? Are your boobs always this sore?
It really wasn't about who the guys were. We always thought about how would it be most interesting with the girls. You know, who would bring out the best in them or some dark side of them? Who would challenge them the most? I'd say the majority shows are about guys, and the female actresses are in the situation that the boyfriends are in our show, which are servicing our leads, who are these powerful females.
I don't think there's anyone where we didn't have good chemistry, where it wasn't, you know, where it was like pulling things out of them. It just always felt good and right.
What was I saying?
When I first started the show, they tried having me have a boyfriend every week.
You didn't come home all night?
No, Mom. Why? Paige isn't a hoe.
What is this, a brothel?
You didn't mention that.
a little short on cash.
But I drew the line with them in the first season after I was on a couch and the girls would walk in and they caught me just making out with some guy. And you never saw the guy again, and it was just me saying, oops, I can't believe I got caught kissing whoever this guy was. God bless him. God bless me. It was 6:30 in the morning. I meet this guy. I'm like, hey, Bob, nice to meet you. On the couch. All right then, good, nice working with you. Never see you again. I thought, okay, that I cannot do.
Well, I try never to get involved with guys I can't see regularly, so don't feel bad. I mean, I understand. Strangely enough, Brian and I had known each other before the show, which was weird because it made it weird. It was like kissing my brother. We were familiar enough with each other to kind of be comfortable in each other's presence, but familiar enough that you didn't want to, like, kiss him. So we made kind of a point of being in character, staying in character. We didn't talk a lot about our personal lives with each other, because when we were around each other, we were Piper and Leo, and it was very easy to stay within that. We had just known each other for so long, it was so easy.
Hi.
Hi. I'll be in the attic.
That's tough on actors. If you have to fall in love and break up with the same people all the time, it's very hard. And all TV shows have it. If you curse with success, the long-term nature of it is what becomes so difficult, because it's forever that you're doing this, and you have to create reasons to keep couples apart and bring them back together. So they did have their trials and tribulations.
We got to use all the things you would normally deal with in drama, you know, marriage, boyfriends, but yet it's all amplified by the fact that they're witches and that they're magical. But it all, I think, was based in reality. They always sort of learned and grew from each of their relationships.
It ended in the way it started, which is a show about sisters. What we tried to make the show, and I think we largely succeeded, was to have the demonic stories or have the magical stories resonate, reflect, bring out, draw out what was happening in the sisters' lives.
It was definitely fun, and there was always this almost little girl element to it, of you felt like a little girl because it's what you would sort of utilize in your imagination when you were little. In my career, I had two very substantial growth spurts on TV. One was Who's the Boss, which I did from 11 to 19 years old, which is, you know, monumental. And Charmed being, you know, early 20s to basically mid-30s. And those are two really substantial times in your life, you know, emotionally, physically, everything.
The last day of filming was very sad. The last scene we shot was basically the ending of the show, which was Phoebe and Coop getting married. It was really touching, it was really sad, and it was really strange because, you know, it kind of functioned as one big dysfunctional family unit for so long. They're always gonna be a part of my life. It was one of the best gifts I've ever had.
There's so much stuff, and there's so many people, and there's so many great times, and it's like, it's one of those things where you won't really know how great you had it till 10 years down the line. We had a great time. I wouldn't trade it for the world. The Mullen brothers, who are they?
They're dicks.
Thanks.
No, like private eyes, detectives. Don't you see? They wrote themselves in as the heroes of their own books, like Sam Spade or Philip Marlowe.
When I came in to do Charm for the first time, by chance I was handed the script Charm Noir.
I don't. I've never seen him before in my life.
Because it was my first episode of Charmed, and Charmed had been around at that point for over 6 years, I was a little bit concerned about how much the producers would let me do outside of what Charmed would normally look like. So I spoke to them about it. I said, I have some very specific ideas if you're willing to really, let this fly and have some fun with it. And they said, go for it. And the first thing they had to do was go to the network and get approval to air black and white, which doesn't happen a lot. Networks are very hesitant to allow things to be broadcast in black and white. And that was an important element, because if we couldn't do the novel in black and white, it would really change stylistically the way I would shoot it.
You're saying?
Thanks, guys. Could you be any less subtle?
So once they agreed to go to black and white, I could then adopt a very, very specific film noir look to what I was going to do, and they gave me permission to push that way past any reasonable limit, which is why it was so much fun to watch and to shoot.
You're a little heartbreaker, aren't you? A regular femme fatale.
It was an opportunity to actually draw back from my past in film school and remember the noir period and remember the films that they showed and actually apply many of those visual effects to what we were doing.